Hey little ones, welcome to a bonus video where I'll be covering an event I recently attended called Furcation. This is my first Furcation I've attended and it will likely be my last, and everybody else's. We started our weekend innocently enough with a Christmas dinner. I had a wonderful time disassociating whilst watching a spider crawl over a new acquaintance's back, forgetting where I was and being confused 90% of the time. And I was given colouring with crayons. This is Pantosaurus, and I feel like this drawing that was a joke initially was a manifestation of what was to come. Described by many as a furry butlins, Furcation is a furry convention established in 2015. Although the first convention was supposed to be held in this year, it was ultimately cancelled due to difficulties with the venue, and the first Furcation ran in 2016 instead. Since then, Furcation has run every year and started at Combe Martin Beach Park, before outgrowing it in 2018 and subsequently moving to Sandaway Beach Holiday Park. In 2019, they moved again to John Fowler's flagship park, the Sandy Glade Holiday Park in Breen, near Burnham-on-Sea. Of course, 2020 rolled in and the COVID-19 pandemic meant that no conventions could run, including Furcation. Instead, they held their event online, raising over £2,500 for their chosen charity, Fern Animal Sanctuary. 2021 was the same, with the convention being held online during lockdown, and in 2022, furries are finally free to reign terror on Sandy Glade Holiday Park once more. Furcation continued to hold their event at Sandy Glade until this year, where they chose to hold the event at Parkdean Lagoon Sanford Holiday Park in Poole in Dorset, due to once again outgrowing their previous venue. The theme for this year was Tale of Terror, and it fit this year's convention perfectly. I don't even know where to start with this clusterfuck, so I'll just go with this. Majority of the staff, both convention and Parkdean, are fab. However, Furcation has a long history of being a promiscuous event.
What would you say is behind tomorrow's window, Father Jack? A pair of feckin' women's knickers!
Despite not being advertised as a kink con, it very much seems like one. If you didn't already know about the reputation of sex parties, drug use and gangbangs at Furcation, you've probably been living under a furry rock. Luckily for them, Sandy Glade and their staff were tolerant and welcoming. Parkdean, not so much. And understandably so. Sex swings, pup parties, baby furs, twinks on Mandy, you name it, we got it.
Brother, what's that? What's that, brother?
You know who you are. Bad. Of course, you can't have a convention without noise complaints, and there were plenty.
Farnsworth? The usual, sir.
Parkdean security was having none of it, and halfway through the convention, warnings from convention staff were given out regarding noise levels and the amount of people in caravans. Some heeded the warnings, others decided to take that as an added speedrun challenge of who can get turfed out the con quickest. Some individuals were banned and removed from the site after the first day of con, and to add to the mess, the weather was shit. Obviously, I'm aware the weather is out of everyone's control. Unless you're one of those people that believes the government controls the weather to inconvenience you, that's not my problem. Take your tinfoil hats off and fuck off. The snow on the first couple of days that swiftly turned into treacherous ice in the first night wasn't ideal conditions for anyone wanting to don their fursuits. We were privileged enough to have the venue staff come to our caravan and lay down some grit, so we didn't have to worry too much about breaking our necks. They only did certain caravans though, and the grit ruined any furry appendages that touched it, if they weren't protected. Then came Storm Bert. The night our caravan was battered by strong winds and rain was an experience to say the least. The caravan wobbled with each gust, and I fell out of my tiny bed at one point. And when the morning came, the weather didn't get much better. It rained pretty much all day, and Furcation transformed into its final form, Floodcation. I ended up leaving on Sunday evening due to fears I'd end up being unable to get home. I live on an island that has a causeway with a tendency to flood in bad storms. The threats that convention goers may be kicked out by 10 AM on the Monday was an added worry for myself and many others. I'm still filled with regretty spaghetti that I left early. However, I couldn't deal with the anxiety or the uncertainty of the weekend was giving me. I didn't want to be stranded in a puddle in Poole of all places.
This is getting out of fucking hand.
After I'd left, the flooding got worse. Convention staff shut down the Telegram chat, staff chat, and tried and failed to shut down the meme Telegram channel. The level of censorship from staff reached a new low, with feedback forms being delayed. Of course, all this did was rile up people, and it led to most venting their frustrations on more public forums, such as Twitter and Blue Sky. Nice job on that damage control, guys. You tried. We had Nambo and the Popo on the first night of con, and if that doesn't set the standards for an event, I don't know what does. Furcation has always had a reputation for a Twinks Gone Wild experience.
What the fuck are you assholes doing to that tree?
And they have announced the theme of 2025's event, Press Start, but they have lost the new larger venue as a direct result of people's actions during the convention. I can't say I blame them, although I don't think that's a bad thing either. The venue for me was probably one of the worst convention venues I've been to since LAGC.
To the drink there. Please have a seat. Have a seat.
The ceiling leaked, we had black mold in our caravan and on the mattress, as well as some other nasty ass stains I'd expect to see in a brothel.
See the splashes? Yeah. Do you know what that is?
Oh, I don't want to know.
It begins with S. Yeah.
Although some guests may have treated it as such during the convention, I'm old and I just wanted to sleep. The communication between staff when trying to rectify dirty mattresses and accessibility issues at the venue was non-existent. A friend of mine had to walk to the shower block located at the edge of buttfuck nowhere in a location that resembled something from Silent Hill. But instead of battling demons, there was nothing. Just darkness and fog. Not even a furry to thump frustrations out on. In my opinion, a big safeguarding issue that could have been avoided if accessibility options had been given. And to add to the piss take that was that situation, on the last day of con, the shower rooms got drained, they tell us to shower because they don't want a musky husky, and then they take away the water from the shower, like lol, just go wash in a puddle outside the caravan instead. A recurring theme was how unprepared Park Team was for the onslaught of furry fiends that were about to befall them. With most of the food choices being out of stock by Sunday, if you had a dietary requirement or an allergy and couldn't get off site to find some grub, you were shit out of luck. They ran out of stuff for the breakfast pancakes I'd had my heart set on, but their blue alcoholic slushies were lovely. Just don't get the red one. That was rank. The on-site arcade was shut despite being advertised as open during the event, but we fixed that ourselves by going to one up the road and had a smashing time. The only convention run event I attended was the Dealer's Den. Despite being poorer than Tinky Winky after a massive bender, I'd always love to have a peruse, collect business cards, and appreciate artists that make the furry fandom a brighter place. Apart from the karaoke, which I sadly missed out on, there wasn't much else that interested me.
Wake up! Grab bread, put a little leg up. Hot start straight away to shake up. Walk your keys on the table. Here you go, create another fable. Grab brush, put a little leg up.
This is partly down to being a seasoned convention goer. There's only so many panels, opening ceremonies, and cosplay masquerades I can go to before they all just blend into one big old boring blob in my brain. I mostly attend cons these days just to chill with friends, buy merch from artists, and have a few drinks responsibly. I'll end this video with an excerpt from the official announcement from Furcation's Twitter. An important message to our attendees from the Furcation Board of Directors. You may have seen some notes, messages and information shared around during Furcation 2024 following drama at the convention. Unfortunately, the rumours are true and we will not be welcomed back to the Furcation 2024 venue. This puts us into a huge uncertainty as for 2025 event to run, we need to now start the search for a new home for Furcation. As such, it is possible we will need to put in place a break for 2025. Our hosts were incredibly unhappy with the number of things that had happened across the course of the weekend, and we are 100% in agreement with them. Across the weekend, there were a couple of large, drug-fueled, organised adult parties that took place in contravention with both our code of conduct and our terms of service with the venue. A number of people were asked to leave the site under a zero-tolerance approach, which is as it should be. Both parties were attended by 30 to 40 plus people in small accommodation spaces, and were reported in to us by other attendees who were concerned by them. What has followed is that those removed from the event, instead of taking personal responsibility for what they have done, have sought to destroy the event for daring to call them out on their poor behaviour. This has also been supported by an individual within our senior staff team who has been leaking out confidential information and discussions from within internal staff chats. The irony of the personal accountability remark is hilarious to say the least, and since this all blew up, the chairman has requested all staff to provide their phone models and PCOS details. The reason he gave for this is bullshit, and it's only so they can try to pinpoint the leaker from the staff group. For the record, I own a Nokia 3310, and my tablet is the Rosetta Stone. I have a little advice for anyone who wants to start a convention or is running one. Personal accountability is key. If you fucked up, the easiest thing you can do is hold your hands up and admit it. Don't try covering your tracks, don't try censoring people because they will find a way to vent. Trust me, I'm fucking venting. And with that concludes my experience at Furcation 2024. I had a good time thanks to friends, but if it wasn't for that, I may have left sooner. As usual, stuff like this gets blown out of proportion from the rumour mill. Although some seem ridiculous, they may be more true than you think. Thanks for the memes, Furcation. It was certainly something.
You don't have to come and confess. We're looking for you. We gon' find you. We gon' find you so you can run and tell that.